Everyday Superpower, where we talk body language, relationships, game, everything in between. All right. This one's going to be speaking to the men. We're going to talk game as always, but this one is going to be something you might relate to, if not something you will experience in due time. Me personally, I acknowledge it when I feel a little bit down in the dumps, but I must have gone through this 3 times at this point, 4 times. But then again, I highlight this purely down to, human biology. If we take it into the realm of like the real world and the depths of and the layers of how this game works on a higher degree, how this pimp game works on a higher degree behind the curtain, then I must have developed this situation so many more times. Talk about red pill rage. I'm talking about operating in a way that society is told they shouldn't. Okay, and I'm not speaking on the women. I might, err on that reactions from women, but it's more so going to be for reactions for men. So red pill rage is a term used. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's in the dictionary, people. So as far as its clarification, let me just tell you what I believe in it. Red pill rage is the enlightening, the understanding, and the broadened horizons of the dark aside the light becoming clear and apparent when you start to research and understand the truth of human nature. Now, you might take it from a black pill perspective when you start to acknowledge the importance of genes and how you are perceived, how height is beneficial to a man, and you can't change that. Racial elements, your genitalia perhaps, it all applies in this game of genetic reality that one might not be able to change, and given some have rolled a dice in one way or another, it might create a downer when they start researching the information or engaging with people who, don't mind opening, right or wrong, their perspective of honest dialogue. In the red pill sense, learning about a woman's nature and learning that it's not all just the magic you assumed it was when you were a young boy or what you were told. When you start to acknowledge the element of resource acquisition necessary, the character one must have. A reoccurring instance is if anyone who has a voice speaks on a man playing video games or watching anime or something, you get, a whole horde of defensive man boys in the comment section saying, well, look, 1 hour a day is all right and all this and that. It's like, well, you can do whatever you want in your life, but it's complete detriment. Living in a fantasy world and accumulating in this online space as opposed to reality isn't going to aid you in becoming a somebody unless you are monetizing that through one means or another, right? You can think smart about it. I've played enough video games in my youth, so I don't say that to be a problem, but come on. There's this rage because it engages with the ego of the man. It engages with this defensive mechanism that wants to shut out and block out this harmful psychological reality that one once perceived and now is slowly edging their way out of through acknowledgement of this counter argument, because these men who want to have a girlfriend, they've not been very lucky with women, they want to have their first girlfriend or second girlfriend perhaps, or understand why their partner cheated on them, or this, that and the third. The information is addictive because as the red pill implies, you're now going down the rabbit hole. You're now looking at this alternate perspective on life that makes sense. And why was I not told this? Why do people not pay attention to this? So this aligns with what I said initially. This goes above and beyond relationships. Think if everything you've told about relationships from a blue pill standpoint, which there's some good perspectives from the blue pill, you know, I don't think at this moment in my life, I don't think monogamous relationships are problematic, especially if you've got a child. Marriage is only questionable because of the governmental you know, entity that now resides between what was once between you and another human. You know, that's a bit odd to me. But the idea of joining together and enforcing your relationship for the sake of a child, I don't seem that detrimental. So I don't think blue pill's the worst thing in the world, but we use blue pill as a symbol for those whom are just following the mainstream narrative. But as you start to understand that the mainstream narrative you've been sold generally is for a systemic purpose, which is contrary to what you need as a unique identity, as a unique man, that portrays into politics, or the facade or theatrics of politics. Left and right wing being wings of the same bird, and what goes on up and beyond. The secret organizations that work together to rid you of everything you have, and the fact that you're streaming everything now. Why do I stream everything and not own anything? Where is this going? You start to identify and question the realities of the world, which both free you, yet lock you into this state of pessimism as you realize the human structure, the human nature, and unlock the doors on the path of most resistance that nobody else might ever uncover. You start to lead your own way. Now, in the realm of relationships, this leadership means of progression through your own education, information, and outlook on life, is that not of benefit to you? She wants a leader, right? She wants to be taught, right? She wants someone with information, right? She wants someone with perspective. She wants someone with depths and fathoms that she can't ever uncover and understand. So this friction you go through is a necessity. It's the equivalent of going to the gym, putting yourself through the resistance and growing muscles through to the healing process that allows you to recover. I've been in many conversations with men, talking to women in those groups. And when me and the women have engaged over relationships, because the women, this is the thing, right? You need to, and hopefully you get to a point, if you're not, you get to a point where you're, you know, engaging fluidly with women. People say, oh, you don't ever want to be in a friend zone and so forth. There's nothing wrong with having women friends, because it's going to be to your benefit when you can engage in quality conversation with them about their perception and perspective and experiences and relationships. They're not going to do that with someone other than you. You're going to be able to, arguably, you will get closer to that woman, potentially, through the position of friend than you will do in the position of lover. Now, as I say that, I sort of, you know, question what I've said, but there's a different perspective you will receive, okay? Once you take that out of the equation, the sexual undertone, and replace it with fascination and understanding, all right? I'm not saying how she will feel towards you, but I'm saying how you feel towards her. She will be able to tell you some fascinating and interesting things. Most definitely. And you're not going to get that from red pill literature. You're not going to get that through your man friends. You're not going to get that through your father. You're not going to get that through these masculine vessels that don't see through the eyes of the woman. Okay? And as you show genuine interest and ask genuine questions, you enter a position where not many men have been with her before, and she will find that conversation stimulating. So I've been in a group and we've been engaged numerous times. I used to be in, this used to be a reoccurring situation. Talk about relationships, talk about what she found interesting in men, what she found attractive. And as you would say, particular perceived realities, I'm not saying what I say is law. That's why we're in inquiry and conversing about these things, to hear different perspectives. But as I ask her and talk to her about these deeper levels, these alternate perspectives on relationships and what she finds interesting and why, this guy would always pipe up. This guy, and he's a very good looking man. He's not lucky with ladies. He's not good with ladies. It would be in his best interest to listen and be self-observant of the reality that he resides within. Talking to this lady, beautiful woman and that, and he pipes up. This was a regular occurrence. And he's, oh, no, that's not what, do you really believe that? And all this and that. This woman was engaged in conversation, non-offended, because what we're discussing isn't that contrary to her belief and reality and open mind state that she could find it ignorant or problematic. We're engaging properly. He starts piping up in offense because what we're discussing and what I'm putting forth and what she's responding to is contrary to his manufactured worldview. That for him to absorb the alternate perspective would shift his opinion on everything. And this is the problem. When you've been living a lie for years upon years upon years on end, when you've been living a lie for your entirety and you've fallen for the bait, you're gonna experience resistance when you hear the counter argument and think, shit, I'm gonna have to be defensive or accept defeat. That's why debates are nonsense. Unless a debate is recorded and put out for the public to assess, if you're sitting there going back and forth debating with someone just for the sake of trying to prove them wrong, it's never going to happen. Whether you're right or wrong, their ego isn't going to allow a loss. If anything, they might performatively allow you to be right, but inwardly they're going to hate you because it's a competition on intellect. It's a competition on knowledge. And that goes beyond our physical vessel. That's our conscious mind, our subconscious mind, our self. You harm the core of that individual. Of course, there's going to be a defensive mechanism. So people do get a little bit under the weather. Do you know me? I'm quite basic. I've come across some deeper information. You know, I do like evolutionary biological works. I like animal studies and the like. I think there's a great crossover. But I do recommend for men who are wanting to break that wall and have done, is to read The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. To me, that is an incredibly fascinating and important work that gives you the ammunition necessary to start seeing things in a different light. You know, it's not a means of tactics and strategies. It's a great assessment on what might be. One of my close friends whom I gave the book, he went through Red Pill rage. it was a little bit more, you know, the uses, the scientific terms and terminologies and stuff that was used in the book. He initially read The Game by Neil Strauss, and that's fun. That's fun, buoyant, funny storytelling. And then when you go from there into the Rollo Tomasi, you go straight into the biological reality or implied biological reality. You know, it might be up for debate, some points that are made. But then you take a steep jump off of that cliff into the realm of scientific basis. And that science don't care about your feelings, right? As I came across, the biological reality is contrary to political correctness. Everything you've been told prior about who we are, what we are, how we operate, might be sold as a dream to you, to be taken under the wings of those who are behind the veil. On that note, I'm signing out, people. So click like and subscribe. Peace.